You're not fighting with your wife over dirty dishes, the tone of her voice, or that snide remark. You're fighting because you still don't understand a principle that separates ordinary men from men who are followed in silence. The truth is brutal. How you deal with her emotions determines whether you will be admired or discarded. You think the argument starts with the argument. She knows the argument starts with the energy you deliver when you open your mouth. And here's the problem. Most men don't realize they're playing a game they've already lost. They think they're debating facts, but in her mind, the only thing that matters is a silent question. Does he destabilize me or anchor me? Every time you raise your voice, she interprets it as a threat. Every time you shut down your emotions and become cold, she feels like she's being abandoned. And it's in this cycle that ordinary men get lost. They try to resolve conflict with logic, while she is seeking emotional security. I was one of those men. I've been through all those pointless arguments. I've tried to win debates that, even when I won, only made me lose something more valuable: her silent respect. Until the day I realized that the problem wasn't the content of the conversation. It was my emotional state being reflected back at me, amplified. I call this the female amplification principle. And this principle changes everything, because it shows you that women aren't difficult. They are emotional mirrors with magnifying effects. Do you irritate her? She returns your anger. Do you judge her? She responds with resistance. But when you master how you deliver your energy, something magical happens. She disarms herself without realizing it. In the last 3 years, I haven't had a single real argument with a woman. Not with my girlfriend, not with female friends, not even with those female coworkers that most men avoid. And no, that doesn't mean I'm a passive doormat. I still correct, disagree, and set boundaries. But I do it in a way that women don't feel the need to fight me. They feel like following me. This level of influence is not achieved through shouting or cold silence. It is achieved through a deep understanding of how the female brain processes conflict. It's not about being stronger in an argument. It's about being more emotionally stable, to the point where she aligns herself with your energy without realizing it. Casanova mastered this. He didn't need to impose his will. Women naturally adjusted to the emotional field he established, because he knew a woman doesn't want to be defeated. She wants to be led by someone who makes her feel safe even when she's wrong. I'll show you exactly how this principle works. I'll teach you how to identify the invisible mistakes you make in every tense conversation, how to turn corrections into moments of deep connection, and how to create a space where she chooses, spontaneously, to respect you. But be warned, this is not for men who still think that brute force resolves conflicts. This is for men who want to master the art of silent influence. Men who understand that true respect doesn't come from instilling fear, but from building presence. From now on, you'll see the dynamics of a relationship through the eyes of someone who has stopped trying to win arguments and started leading without fighting. If you're ready, let's begin your transformation into a man of emotional mastery. Few men realize it, but most fights with women don't start with what was said. They start with how it was said. You think you were just making an observation, correcting a detail, or setting a necessary boundary. But to her, you just lit an emotional fire that she didn't even know existed. And here's the trap. While you're focused on the words, she's picking up on a universe of invisible signals. Tone, micro-expressions, breathing, hidden intent. It's like you're playing chess and she's playing poker with access to your cards and your heartbeat. This isn't a female flaw. It's biology, refined by evolution. Since ancient times, women have had to develop a keen sensitivity to decode emotions, not as a luxury, but as a survival instinct. A mother who doesn't notice a subtle change in her child's cry sees that child die. That same skill has been transferred to relationships. They absorb your emotional state and amplify it. I call this the female amplification principle. And here's the critical point. Women don't just amplify what you say. They amplify who you are in the moment you say it. Whisper irritation and you'll get a shout of frustration. Deliver a criticism laced with contempt and you'll see that contempt return in the form of a storm. Want an example? Think about that time when a trivial argument about who left the light on ended in an explosion about lack of respect in the relationship. You thought, she's overreacting. She was just returning, in amplified form, the contempt she picked up, even if you swear it wasn't there. Casanova understood this intuitively. He never argued with a woman by raising his voice or imposing cold logic. He mastered the art of maintaining a constant warmth in his voice, even when he needed to be firm. Because he knew, women don't react to content, they react to the emotional field in which that content is delivered. And here's the key that few have the courage to accept. If she amplifies what you emanate, control of the situation is always in your initial energy. Chaos or peace begins with you. While other men try to correct women with force, I've learned to correct myself before I open my mouth. The voice you project defines the voice you will receive in return. But be careful. I'm not telling you to become an emotional robot. This brings us to the next fatal mistake men make: emotional blackout. After many men realize that raising their voice with a woman only makes things worse, they fall into the opposite trap. They become emotionally neutral. They think that by eliminating any trace of emotion from their voice, they are being rational and mature. They believe that if they speak coldly, with total control, she will also respond calmly. But the effect is exactly the opposite. To the female mind, the absence of emotion is not a sign of balance, it is a sign of emotional abandonment. When you take the warmth out of your voice, she doesn't think, he's being rational. She feels, he's disconnecting from me. And here biology speaks louder. In her unconscious, an emotionally absent man is a man about to leave her. It doesn't matter if the fight is about who forgot to take out the trash. Her alarm system doesn't understand the scale of the situation. It understands the following: I'm losing the emotional bond, I need to do something. And that something is usually an escalation. She raises her voice, dramatizes, provokes, tests. Not because she wants to fight, but because she wants to feel you back. The mistake of the emotionally neutral man is to believe that being calm means being cold. But Casanova was never cold. He was warm and firm. He corrected without hurting. He disagreed without disconnecting. He could say no with a smile in his eyes, and the woman felt that he was present, not distant. The secret is not to be a robot. The secret is what I call emotional tone mastery. It is speaking with a firmness that does not offend and a gentleness that does not give in. It is eliminating from your voice any trace of judgment, irritation, or contempt, without eliminating warmth, interest, and security. When you speak with this tone, something extraordinary happens. The woman lets her guard down. She feels she can trust you, even when you are pointing out a mistake. She feels you are with her, not against her. And that is magnetic. Because deep down, every woman wants a man who will correct her without crushing her, who will lead her without suffocating her. I've experienced both extremes, being the man who imposes force and destroys the connection, and being the man who extinguishes her flame and becomes invisible. Neither works. The balance lies in being selectively emotional, eliminate negativity, amplify connection. When I learned to master this tone, I realized that what I said became irrelevant compared to how I said it. What's more, I realized that my tone was capable of turning correction into attraction. She began to associate the moments when I corrected her with a feeling of security and admiration, not attack. And this is where most men never get to. They think they need to be more right to win an argument. I've learned that you don't win a woman in an argument. You guide her to a place where the argument becomes unnecessary. Now we need to talk about something that no relationship guru has the courage to say outright. There are women who are simply incompatible with peace. This is not misogyny, it's selection. And Casanova knew this even before Freud was born. He never tried to tame a woman who was addicted to conflict. He observed, tested, and walked away with a smile before chaos engulfed him. Most men, however, insist on turning dynamite into porcelain. They think that if they are understanding enough, if they explain themselves better, if they are patient enough, they will be able to turn an emotionally dysfunctional woman into a balanced partner. But here's the brutal reality. You can't have a calm conversation with someone who feeds on drama. And they reveal themselves early on. I've learned to identify signs that are always there, on first dates, in the most mundane conversations. These are women who collect stories of toxic ex-boyfriends where they are never at fault. They are the ones who treat waiters with disdain, who make mountains out of molehills, who talk about friends who envy or betrayed them, but never look in the mirror. The mistake of a man who is always fighting with women is simple. He chose poorly. He ignored the warning signs. You can't teach stability to someone who enjoys instability. You can't teach balance to someone who only feels alive in emotional extremes. And this is where a concept I call the early warning system comes in. Before you think about how to fix a woman, you need to find out if she's worth the trouble. A modern Casanova isn't concerned with winning arguments with any woman. He filters out the women he'll never need to argue with. This starts with observation. See how she reacts to minor frustrations. A wrong order at a restaurant, an unexpected delay, a simple no. See if she's able to laugh at herself or if every little thing turns into a soap opera. See if she values moments of peace or if she seems bored when there's no drama in the air. And here's the hardest part for many men. You can only be selective if you have options. A man who is emotionally deprived accepts crumbs. A man who is emotionally abundant selects with coldness. When you have options, you don't try to fix women who test your patience. You simply let them go. Without resentment, without trying to prove your worth. Choosing the right partner is the greatest conflict reducer there is. Most men try to develop techniques to put out fires. I prefer to invest my time in avoiding marrying an arsonist. And the moment you internalize that, your energy changes. You no longer beg for peace. You select peace. And that ironically makes you even more attractive to women who are really worth it. Now that you understand that the biggest mistake is trying to turn dynamite into porcelain, let's talk about the art of correcting a woman without creating resistance. And more than that, how to make her enjoy being guided by you. The classic mistake men make is to correct as an adversary. They point, accuse, impose. This only activates the female defense system. But there is a way to correct that transforms conflict into connection. Casanova knew exactly how to do this. I call it the warm sandwich technique. Here's how it works. Before addressing any behavior that needs to be adjusted, you start by creating a safe, emotional environment. A simple but true statement such as, "I love it when we understand each other so well." Then you deliver the correction clearly, without contempt, irony, or judgment. And finally, you close with positive reinforcement about the relationship. Something like, "I know we can work this out together, like we always do." The content is the same, but the packaging is everything. In addition to the warm sandwich, there is a second, even more powerful strategy, the curious observer stance. Instead of saying, "You're wrong," or "You shouldn't do that," you position yourself as someone interested in understanding. Something like, "I noticed you seemed tense just now. Can you help me understand what was going through your mind?" When you replace judgment with curiosity, women let their guard down, because now they feel that you are trying to understand, not win. And here's another weapon, the shared problem. Instead of, "You did this," you turn the conflict into a challenge for both of you. It seems like we're stumbling over this situation. How do you think we can solve this together? The female mind doesn't want to lose, but it loves to win together. When you turn me against you into us against the problem, you access a new dimension of cooperation. And it doesn't stop there. Before asking for any change in behavior, you need to validate her emotion. It's tactical emotional validation. "I understand that you're frustrated. That makes sense to me." Only then do you steer the conversation toward a solution. Because without validation, any suggestion sounds like criticism. Finally, use future focus. Don't waste time debating who was more at fault or who was right. Say, "What matters is how we're going to act next time." This prevents her from getting caught up in ego and shame and focuses your energy on the path forward. The secret to all of this is maintaining a constant foundation of warmth. Your voice, your posture, your gaze, everything should convey that you are there for her, not against her. When you do this, women stop reacting as enemies and start responding as allies. Casanova did this without a script, instinctively. He knew that leading a woman is not about controlling her, It's about creating a space where she wants to be guided. The most advanced stage of influence does not happen when you eliminate conflict. It happens when the simple fact that you are present redefines how she feels her own emotions. It's when your energy shapes the environment without you having to raise your voice or justify anything. Ordinary men try to control women through fear of losing them. They threaten, play games, and apply consequences. I have learned that true power does not come from threats, but from the unshakable security you convey. And that only exists when you are not fighting to be heard. You are building a space where she wants to listen. When you master your voice, your gaze, your posture, you become the emotional reference point in the room. She may arrive at the height of an emotional storm, but when she finds you anchored, stable, with a tone that says, "I'm here. None of this phases me," her brain begins to recalibrate. She stops fighting you and starts fighting alongside you. This is what Casanova did effortlessly. He didn't earn women's respect by being the strongest or most dominant, but by being the man they trusted even when they were in conflict with themselves. He knew that correcting a woman was actually a subtle invitation. You can be better with me. And here's where most men fail. They try to earn respect through direct confrontation, but every time you force a clash, you reveal insecurity. True respect comes when she realizes you don't need to prove anything. You guide, or she gets lost. I call this leadership by the invisible bond. You don't force it. You don't negotiate respect. You establish an emotional field where respect is the only possible response. This level of influence isn't built overnight. It requires you to rethink how you react to provocation, how you manage your tone under pressure, and, above all, how you choose your battles. Emotional warfare isn't won by fighting harder. It's won by the ability to turn a potential battle into a moment of rebuilding. And you know what's ironic? When you stop trying to fix your woman and start modeling a posture where she naturally aligns with you, you realize that cooperation flows. Not because you won, but because you didn't have to fight. That's the difference between controlling through fear and leading through presence. A modern Casanova doesn't dominate by shouting. He dominates through unshakable serenity. If you've made it this far, you've probably felt something different about this content. Perhaps you've realized that arguing isn't a sign of strength and that true authority manifests itself in your ability to transform tension into connection. And that's exactly why I'm now asking you for a gesture of commitment. If you're ready to break out of the cycle of shouting, never-ending arguments, and feeling hostage to emotions that aren't yours, click the like button now. It's not for the algorithm, it's for you. It's your sign that you're choosing to be a man who doesn't react, you lead. Then subscribe to the channel. This space is for men who understand that being strong isn't about being tough, but about mastering your own energy. Every video here is a psychological weapon that sets you apart from the average man and brings you closer to the man she respects in silence. And if this content has added real value to your life, I invite you to leave a donation of any amount. This keeps this project free of external agendas, focused on delivering content that transforms you, not numbs you. Now scroll down to the comments and write, "Emotional Mastery." But don't write it on impulse, write it as a pact. Because from now on, every word you say must carry the energy of someone who no longer fights to be heard. You build silence around you, and in that silence, leadership happens.